Mr. Martin Scorsese.
Incredible.
Yeah, you know, here, thank you.
He went to make a movie.
That took quite a while because of the CGI stuff. That took an extra 6 months in post-production. But we kept, the work we kept doing kept changing radically. I mean, the idea of the Oklahoma land rush would have been, my thought was, let's go right out there and say it. You want the land? Run and take it.
Just take it.
Take it. Those people that get it, don't worry about it, just go. And that was all going to be done in one shot, and he wrote these incredible vignettes, a little kid crying and two people fighting, and then a wife arguing with a husband, and somebody trying to get a horse that was getting crazy. It was all going to be in one long take, and then pulled back. I mean, I know these days, the long take is something that is now the imagination of how to relay the information to the audience in terms of narrative. It's become, it's more plausible because you can stitch it together, as they call it in CGI. Whereas years ago, a long take with a Steadicam was, two guys following with lamps, and it was literally changing focus, and but now, why not take advantage of that technology? And we thought, let's do it. But ultimately, we realized that
We were telling probably the wrong story, quite honestly. Leonardo was going to play Tom White, Gary Cooper of a kind, I guess. And we did a read-through of it. It ran about 4 hours, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And literally, I think it was that night, or maybe it was that night, I think. I got a call from Marty. It was kind of late, and he said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Well, I'm actually laying down in bed." But,
that's good.
and he said, "Well, Leonardo has a big idea." And I said, "Oh boy," because if the star has a big idea, that means the changes are coming. And so, on my way over to see Marty the next morning and work with him and Leonardo, I kind of realized what he had in mind. I didn't know all the purpose of it, but I understood that he does not want to feel good about playing his character, and we need to make a change. And Marty and Leonardo, he'll take it from here.
Well, the issue during the time that we were working on the script based on the David Grant book, as written from that perspective of the Bureau investigation coming in to a place, looking around and trying to find out who did it. And I always point out, I think David Grant has said this, it's not a matter who did it, who didn't do it. It's about complicity to all of us, in a way. Are we strong enough? What would happen if we're in that situation? I started to get into it. I said, everybody's involved. Everybody is guilty. And that's the kind of material that I like.
Just to interrupt Marty for a second. Really from the beginning, Marty said that we're all culpable here. And we got to somehow show how
we're culpable, and I said, it isn't a matter of mea culpa and, showing massacres, and so it's a matter, I think, of getting deep inside the soul, the human condition, of what we are capable of under the hardest or the worst circumstances. So what happened was that while I think right before COVID, I visited the Osage out in Oklahoma, and there were dinners. First of all, it was a little difficult in terms of, will they trust us? Will they trust me? And so once I said I want to shoot it in Oklahoma, they felt a little better. I had been known by them by some of the more excitable underworld films that I've made. And they were concerned about the violence and that sort of thing. And then I sent them, they saw silence. And that changed things. It's a film I made in Taiwan a few years ago. And then, what really I'm getting at is that Margie Burkhart, who was Ernest Burkhart's great-granddaughter, she got up and spoke at one of the big dinners in Alaska that they gave us special, about 200 people. And the number of the Osage got up and talked about their uncles, their grandparents, their grandfathers, their fathers being killed, the mothers being killed, and how they were killed, and all this going on and on. I'm looking around and I'm thinking, this is, these people, they are still here. In other words, these wounds apparently are things that they haven't spoken about. And yet, and the culture was being erased. In other words, the language had to be relearned here. All of these things. Well, she got up and talked about one point. She said, you have to remember, a lot of these people were best friends. At one point, somebody told me, you have to understand, William Hale and Henry Roan, the guy that killed in the car, they were best friends. And I said, wow, best friends, that's interesting. And yet, he had him killed for the insurance money, for whatever. It was crazy. But what she pointed out was something even more important. She said, don't forget, Ernest and Molly were in love. And that's when we had taken, Eric and I had taken the script to the point, I think to the furthest point we could have with Tom White.
Yes, and that was it, and then I started over.
And then we started over because we could not get past, I think, for me, as a filmmaker or a film lover who loved the Western genre and loved Gary Cooper and Gregory Peck and the Clint Eastwood getting off the train with the hat and with his Stetson and the beautiful boots and everything. That's the same thing. I can't do that. It was done, and it was done to perfection, and it also represents another world, another time. And I said, wait, it's getting into the difficult territory here. And that's when Leo said to me, how can I play this? He said, where is the heart of the film? I said, the heart of the film actually is it's the love story. And he said, well, what if I play Ernest? I said, oh God, yeah, okay. So that meant script upside down.
Yeah.
And Eli got a whole bunch of coffee and fruit.
Yeah.
That was Eric, sorry. Eric got a whole bunch of coffee.
We realized right away this was complicated because I couldn't think of, Marty and I came up with maybe 3 examples, and maybe one of you knows more, of where somebody's in love with somebody and trying to kill them, and in art, literature, or theater. And this we think was true of this couple, and that, like in his dying days when he had cancer, Ernest Burkhart asked his son, whose name was Cowboy, as you saw, to spread his ashes over the Osage Hills. So there was some affection that he had, but this combination of tenderness, which I think Leonardo pulled off and Marty was able to get, tenderness and yet the murderous quality. I mean, I'd never seen it before, and I felt like this was a departure.
Well, I think what happened too is that once we proceeded on that road, rather than coming from the outside in, we were inside out in a way. And I figure, well, like a soldier in a battle, from what I understand, all you could see and tell what's going on is a foot ahead of you and a foot to the left and a foot to the right. That's it. You don't know who's winning, who's losing, what. You don't know what's coming at you. And so I said, what if we're down there with them and take it to the point where they actually do love each other? And is this guy, and this is something we discussed, and I must say even during the shoot every day, how delusional was Ernest? And what did he know when, and how did he know it, if he did know it?
Yeah.
Lewis found her in this film, Certain Women, that Kelly Reichardt did. And I saw that, and I thought the film was good, and I thought she was great. When I saw her in the Zoom, there was something about her face and her eyes that had, there's stuff going on in there, but she's not, you're aware that the wheels are going, everything's happening, she's sensing everything around her, but you don't see it. It doesn't show in the normal sense, she doesn't make it evident. Normal is the wrong word, but it doesn't make herself evident, you don't see. She allows you to imagine somehow those feelings she's having because of the gravitas, the settled nature of what she is, who she is as a person. It's almost the perfect face for cinema. in a way. There's so much going on behind the eyes and everything. You could read anything you want, but I know I could depend on her for the right feelings, the right tone in every scene and every situation in that picture.
The other thing I think is so interesting.
Well, I mean, the plan, for example, to kill Henry Roan. I took, this is something, all the research that you had, I found the transcript of John Ramsey, and you hear his voiceover. Suddenly he's narrating the film. He said, well, they introduced me as engine, I smell alcohol in his breath, and I realized he So I took him out to Saul Smith, and I got to liking that kid. I kind of liked him. And I felt kind of funny about it, but it had to be done. Those are his words. And I said, well, let's just shoot it that way. And let's use the parade with the KKK coming in. Let's do the thing that, he'll meet him there. He takes him out to Saul Smith's pasture. You have to understand that, Eric and I were going to do, we were going to originally have the scene, have Tom White as an extra in the FBI story, which is a film that was a egregious, terrible representation of the Osage, and an otherwise well-made film, I think, the FBI story with Jimmy Stewart. But then when we changed it, because in the book you said there were radio plays, yes. And I grew up listening to the radio before TV, and I said, what do we do, a radio show? And Eric wrote the radio show, and he did all that, and so I had to keep it. I said, I have to do it. I said, because ultimately, the radio show is, in a sense, a promo for the FBI. All right. Also for Lucky Strike. Now, the thing is that after all that, I said, if I do it, if I make the journey and I get there as a filmmaker, then we show the radio show. And the radio show, after all that suffering, all that drama, all that trauma, all those emotions, all of that sadness, all of that suffering, all those people, it's a radio show. It's entertainment. It's entertainment. And if it's entertainment, and this is something I always talk to Eric about, I made a film, it's entertainment.
Yeah,
and so
I wasn't aware that Marty had done The Last Moment.
Well, yeah,
until I saw the movie. And I don't know why, it kind of choked me up though. There was something moving about it to me that, this man who's a wonderful storyteller and a visionary kind, and he was saying, everybody can tell a story in some way, and the iconography of it. And I thought it was pretty amazing, and very brave. Most people have liked it, actually.
I think, what I did was I said I could not figure out how to direct the guy to act the words that you wrote for the obituary. And so I said, after all of that, living with the Osage for all that time, and being around, becoming friends and everything, I couldn't trust anybody. And I said, the only thing, I better try it myself. The worst that can happen is I know that there's a medium shot, and I know how then to direct an actor to do it. But that day, there was my wife, my daughter Francesca, me, Domenica, a number of other, my family, friends that were there. I was in my old high school, on the stage in my old high school, Cardinal Hayes. And after repeating it a number of times, it hit home. And I kept it, and I think that ultimately there's an element knowing, there is an element of culpability, revealing culpability of myself, even enjoying the suffering of other people as it's represented in movies, misrepresented in movies over the years, and yet loving the pictures. So I feel, I love the art, but the problem is there are certain problems in them. But I still love the art, so there's something that's bad about me. But on the other hand, I still love the art. So it goes on like that. And I said, well, might as well come on myself and do it. I took a chance, and so we left it in.
Great work.